Welcome once again back to the lab. It is your old Professor Pilk, and the other day we did a whole video on using PkHex and using RNG. Well, RNG Reporter kind of is like a side piece to PkHex, but mostly using PkHex to generate mon for Gen 3. Essentially, my goal here is to have a full shiny bin for Generation 3. And you'll notice behind me, I have a lot of mon up here, but a lot of them have like little error signs here. There's a problem with these mons. So going back here to Puchia, he's got an error. Basically, whenever you're going into these mon, if I'm transferring these over through Pokemon Bank and eventually through Home and all that stuff, it's going to run a few checks. And with any of these exclamation points on here, it could actually error out and tell me these are bad. Plus, not that I would ever use a Gen Mon in like competitive. I want to emphasize this is mostly for like personal collection purposes and for essentially just for purely for entertainment. This is for my collection, my Pokemon home. I would never do this if I was going to be using these Pokemon in a competitive sense. I would definitely raise those mon and I would do everything perfectly to the letter. Number one, it just feels like the right thing to do. Number two, you could get caught, and if you get caught, then you're kind of you're in big trouble at that point. So it's better just to do it right from the start if you are going to do this competitively. However, for me, as I'm going into this purely for my collection standpoint, I really want a full shiny dex. And yes, we could shiny hunt all of these. That's going to take forever. And Pokemon Bank's eventually going to close. So when it comes to Gen 3, and maybe all the way up through like everything on the 3DS, the clock is ticking. And so I kind of want to get the ball rolling on that. And that's kind of where this brings me. So as I'm basically creating an entire shiny dex for Gen 3, it's kind of taught me a few things about these two programs. And on the surface, they could seem really cumbersome. And hopefully today, I can make these a little more warm and a little more welcoming for you. And make things, frankly, just a lot easier than they otherwise might be. So, number one, right out of the gate, I'm going to start off by just genning a Pokemon that's next in line. And that is Gardevoir. Now, obviously, I've got Ralts and Kirlia here. And I'll pull up my Ralts here. And if I click over here, it'll say PID correlation does not match what is expected for that encounter's type. Okay, that's a thing. So, the PID is a problem. Let's kind of break this down. The PID is a randomly generated hexadecimal number. It's not even hexadecimal. It's, well, yeah, it is hexadecimal. I think it ends at F. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a randomly generated hex that corresponds to both your trainer type and the Pokemon, and everything has to connect the dots, right? So, we will get to generating the PID number absolutely dead last. That's going to be the very last thing I do. But number one, I want to consider what I want this mon to be. And to kick this off, obviously, we'll pull up Gardevoir here. So, that's Arbok. That's not Gardevoir. So, we'll pull up Gardevoir. And it'll start pulling up some just general stuff here. Now, I do want a timid nature on this mon. Timid is kind of the best nature for Gardevoir. So, by all accounts, that's what I want. Now, as far as levels go, we are going to be bringing her in. So, I'm going to go ahead and put her at level 100. I don't think I'm going to need to do anything beyond this. We should be good to go. Basically, once we get her into Scarlet and Violet, we can change any of the stats and then change her back to Home. Not that big of a deal. She's an easy mon to work with when it comes to that. Ability, I'm going to choose the ability based on the PID number, and I'm going to save that for last. Held item, what the heck? We could give her a Master Ball just for for the sake of silliness. Why not? You can give her anything. I could give her, I don't think the ability patch was the thing here, but you could give her any number of stuff. I'm just going to give her a Master Ball. Why not? Who knows? This is going to go right back in my decks, and I can extract that, and then I can catch other mon with it. Not that I'll probably need to, but if I want to, it's there. So, we got a Master Ball. Fun times. Now, friendship level, you don't really need to worry about. Ability we'll come back to. So, the main thing here is the species and the nature. Once we have that set, now we need to figure out where we've met her. Now, that is pretty much preset. Ralts can be, and I do want this to look like I evolved this from Ralts, right? That's kind of like the best possible scenario. So Ralts can be gathered in all 3 games, Emerald, Ruby, and or Sapphire, and she will appear at a level 4 in Route 102. That's simply what it's going to be. That's where you will find this mon. Now, so I want to set 102. Okay, I'm going to set it Sapphire because that's the actual game I'm playing. I don't want her to look like she was transferred. I want this to look like I caught this mon. Okay, Route 102. I'm going to use a Luxury Ball just because of reasons. And while that might look sus, it's easy enough to argue, like, I went back later in the game and caught her Ralts to complete my decks. That's not really a questionable thing. If you really, really, really want to go crazy, you can just use a regular Pokeball. I'm just gonna err on the side of whatever here. I'm gonna go with a Luxury Ball. That's just the ball I want. You have a number of options here. You do a Great Ball, Ultra Ball, Dive Ball. I went Luxury Ball, Nest Ball, Net Ball, Premier Ball, Repeat Ball, Safari Ball. Would not recommend a Safari Ball if it's not a Pokemon that's going to be caught in that area. That will flag stuff. So definitely do not want that. So I'm going to stick with the Luxury Ball. The Luxury Ball makes sense. And Mat level, always 4 for this mon, because I wanted it to look like this was caught as a Ralts. I met Ralts at level 4. She is not a Gardevoir. Yeah, makes sense, right? Hopefully you're still with me. All this is pretty standard. Now, stats. We're going to pump the brakes on stats. We'll come back to that in just a minute. Stats, like our ability, is going to be based on our PID numbers. So we're going to kind of pump the brake on both of those for now. Moves, doesn't really matter. I can actually make the game mad here and have it recommend some moves for me. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to randomly generate some moves. So the easy way to do this is if you click in this area here, anything in green is going to be a recommended move. If I click outside of that, these are illegal moves. These are moves that this mon cannot use. And if I set it here and kind of go back in, sometimes it's not going to do it this time. So let's just grab some moves. So we'll set her to have Reflect. We'll set her to have Psychic. Sometimes it'll recommend moves for you. It's not doing it here at the moment. What else can we have her learn? And once again, she can learn more stuff when she comes up through the other side. Let's say Taunt and I don't know. Future Sight. There we go. Not the greatest moveset by any stretch of the imagination, but a likely moveset that she could have when being transferred. You know what I mean? So, there we go. So now we have our moves. Okay? Cosmetics, there's not much to do here. That is what it is. I wouldn't mess any further with that. And when it comes to the trainer name, so all this comes right out of the game. That is my trainer name in the game. That is my TID, my SID, all that is generated by the game itself. So I don't want to mess with this. However, this is the information that I am then going to take over here to determine what PID number I'm going to have. So now I have everything but my PID number. Sorry, I didn't get the mic there. Everything but my PID number and my ability set here. Everything set here. Those will come back to everything said here, and all of this just stays how it is. Now we're going to come over here to the RNG Reporter. So I'm going to take my TID number. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it here where it says ID. And I'm going to take my SID number, which actually is already over there, and paste it where it says SID. Pretty easy stuff, right, guys? Not too cumbersome as it is. So, now, I can click Shiny only because I do want this to be a Shiny Gardevoir. And we can go to Generate. And it's already generated it here. This is the list of all the available PID numbers. We'll get to what all this means here in a second. But all the available PID numbers that you can utilize for your thing. Let me go ahead and zoom in on this so it makes a little bit more sense for you. Now, pardon me, I'm a little bit in the way here, but hopefully you can see everything I'm doing here. So, this is every mon that I want. I'm looking for one with a timid nature. Okay, here's one with a timid nature. Natures are right here. Pretty straightforward. That's the only one I see with a timid nature. And I want a female Gardevoir. Why does it make a difference? It doesn't, really, at the end of the day. Now, I can give myself an extra Kirlia to upgrade to Agalade once she gets over to the other game. So I could have a male Kirlia. That's a total thing. And we'll kind of cover that here in a moment. But I want a female Gardevoir. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to nature, and I'm going to set this to timid. Where is timid? I lost timid, guys. There it is. That's sassy. So we'll set it to a timid nature, and I'm going to set the gender to female. Let's see. Wonder if I could do 100% female. This doesn't really matter. As long as there's female in the equation. You know what I'll do? I'll just set it to timid, and I'm going to see what it comes up with. Because I don't want to mess with that too much. You know what I mean? Now, here's the other thing I want. I want her special attack to be maxed out. So I'm going to set 31 as her special attack. You could set all these to 31, but I warn you, if you do that, you risk basically getting your Mon flagged. If your Mon comes in with perfect IVs, it's not impossible by any stretch of the imagination, especially Gen 1, Gen 2, where IVs determine whether or not it's shiny. However, in the future, that might become a question mark, and so I don't really want to mess with that. I want the one stat at 31. I can hyper-train everything else in Scarlet and Violet. I'm not worried about that. So, just having special attack at 31 will be kind of what I want. So, if we go to generate, I don't have anything there. But if I come over here to max results, okay? Now, let me warn you, if you play with this a lot, it's going to take a while to generate numbers. I'm going to go ahead and just literally add 2 zeros here. That means that is, what do we have here? 10 million results. So it's going to go through 10 million different possible PID numbers. And then it's going to come back with results. So let's see how long this takes. It could take a few minutes. And so far, this is still the only one. And it's all male. Not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. But let's crank this up to, let's just say 50 million. This will take literally 5 times as long. And generate. Okay. Now it's thinking. So here's our results. Okay. So now we've got a few here that could be shiny, could be female. I see one here I really do like. This one's got 31 in speed. I like that. But I don't know if it'll accept it as female. Okay, so now when I come back in here, I have my Gardevoir. I have my PID number. I'll go ahead and set this to E8585. Was it E8585992? Okay, got it set to female. I'll set it to shiny. Now, the downside is this is automatically setting her to be male. So, so I do need a different PID number. So we can actually go down here to this one. That is, let's try this again. 0E. Looks at F9. BF33. Let's see what that says. Okay, that is female. That is shiny. Encounters type. Oh, you know what? It's because if you see that, it's because these stats are not the same. So we'll need to set HP to 3, which I know is a crummy HP stat. We'll hyper train that. 6 and 21. Of course, special attack is 31. Special defense is 26. That's actually good. And then her last stat is 30. And now, does not match PID number. Why does it not match the PID? Okay, I see. So we need to put it in one more time. So, we've got 0E F9 BF33. Okay? Ability is not matched. Okay, so now we can change it to trace. And everything looks good. Now she's nice and legal. We can set her. We have a nice female Gardevoir. And in fact, I can copy that PID number. Go over here to my Kirlia. Boom. In fact, you know what would make this even easier? If I go to View Gardevoir and I just grab Kirlia. And we'll set her level to 30. Everything else should be the same. Invalid move force. So now we can't use move force. We'll just go in here. And we'll just dump move 4, right? We can just set that to none. There we go. I know she'd normally have a move 4, but whatever. She can't learn it at that level. So that just be what it be. So now she's nice and legal. And we have a female Kirlia. We've got a male Kirlia. That's the one we set before. And I could set Ralts. Let's go ahead and view this up. Set her level to... Let's just go to level 6. Let's do a Ralts. So my keyboard's in my lap. It's a little awkward to type. And then, you know, moves are going to be a problem. So we'll go ahead. Actually, Future Sight's the only one that's a problem. She could learn those from TMs, so why not? Let's go up here to main. And now she's legal. She looks good, right? We got the right ability. We got the right gender. We got everything else, so we could set her. So now, if I go to view, I've got my female Ralts, my male Kirlia, which I will evolve into a Gallade when we get into Scarlet and Violet. I have a female Gardevoir and a female Kirlia. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Like I said, this is not a scary, cumbersome situation. All this can be pretty easy if you just know what you're doing. So, like I said, set nature. I could have set the gender. I would rather have just gone through the list and found what I needed here and tested a couple out. Eventually, in this short list, I would have found them. One thing I will warn you, if you set your numbers too high, if I kind of pull this over here, where it says here max results, if you set that number really high and you don't have a really strong PC, that could take a while. If I set this to max, which is what, like 99 billion or something like that, this will take like 15 minutes. And I don't have a slouch of a PC. So that be a thing. But that all said and done, if you play this smart, play that smart, you can actually generate some pretty awesome Pokemon with some pretty awesome abilities, some pretty awesome stats that will look completely legitimate that you can then transfer into Pokemon Home. Right there on your PC. Now, the transfer portion of this, we'll come back, we'll talk about shortly. Make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date, and I'll be back with more coming up here real soon.